Hey Harmonizers, it's time for a video update with Mustang 5562. This is his first time coming into the indoor arena, first time seeing all the stuff that's in here. And I didn't end up with any video footage of him coming out of the pen and coming in just because I didn't have somebody to film me, and then with it being cold, it's harder to get things like my Pivo to work because nothing likes to work in the cold, and we're definitely getting into winter time now. So what I'm doing is just setting up some pylons, and basically as soon as we got into the arena, I put my phone up to record, so you guys get to see just fresh like me setting everything up. You can even see that the ring was harrowed, and there's not really a whole lot of walking tracks in there because we hadn't been in yet. So that's just how fresh the session is right at the beginning, which is really fun. And so I'm just setting everything up, and I'm giving him a little bit of space, and decided to bring him into the indoor arena because the leading was going really well. And he's, curious, looking at things, unsure. And when the Mustangs are learning, I like to give them space, especially because they're coming from that wild environment where, they have a legit prey animal concern for safety. And so they tend to be more flighty in the beginning because they're not sure that they can trust their environment and trust all of these different things. And I want to make sure I give them space so they can run past me or not run over me. I want to make sure that I have space for my safety. I want to make sure that they have space. They feel like they can move how they want to move. And I don't want to put them in a position where they feel like they need to run over me. Now, when I go to pet him here, you can see he's really bracing in his front legs, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And this is a thing that can happen where it's basically called trigger stacking, where in the field, he's letting me pet his face without doing this, where he literally looks like he's going to almost lay down because he's bracing so far backward. But because he's in a new environment, he hasn't been in the arena before, he's a little bit more on edge and nervous. And whenever you're more on edge or nervous, anxious, for whatever reason, then things that don't normally bother you tend to bother you. And so you can see I just kind of kept petting him until I was able to pet his neck, where he didn't feel like he had to kind of really stretch back. And the biggest example that I can do as like a comparison for you is you are not normally scared of your cell phone. But if you are watching a scary movie and then your cell phone goes off because somebody's messaged you or called you or something, and now it's buzzing right at the peak of a scary movie, you might jump because it's something that you weren't expecting in that moment. But you're not scared of your cell phone. It's just that you're in an environment, there's a lot of different things going on that have your senses heightened, and that's trigger stacking. So that's basically what's going on here. And it's always why I tell people to, you can train your horse very great at home, but when you go to a show, things might not go the way you think they're going to go because now your horse is in a new environment. So I always encourage people to take horses to off-property experiences that are not a show. So go to some clinics or workshops, or go for schooling, or go to shows where you can pay to enter classes but not be judged. So that way you can do circles or take your time to go over a fence, like have more than 2 refusals, things like that. So that way your horse can have the time that they need from you to realize that it's a good experience. So here what I'm doing with him is leading him through different and strange things, which mimics going through gates, and most importantly, eventually we'll put him on cross ties or take him into a stall. But I like to practice walking between openings, like these 2 pylons, or like between the barrel and the bridge, that are roughly the same width as a stall door, before I even attempt to do something like that, because I want to see how they're going to react. I want to set them up for success. Eventually, like, I'll lead them around the mounting block and do all that kind of stuff. But he's being very hesitant here, walking, like very slow thinking, kind of a little bit unsure in his body language. So we're not even going to attempt to walk around the mounting block on this particular session, but this is session 1 coming into the arena. And the nice thing about using the pylons is if it was too close for him, if it was too scary, I could very easily make them go further apart just to make it a little easier for him. So it's always good to start with things that you have the ability to adjust if it's too hard for your horse. And then here you can see he's taking cookies by hand, which is a pretty exciting process, or progress, I should say. So I thought, okay, we'll try walking over a pole. Oh boy, I did not realize what we were getting into. So what I want you to realize is the footage you're watching right now is sped up times 8. So this is actually happening a lot slower than what it appears in the video. And I'm doing some gentle, like some pull, hold, pressure, release. And when he tries, then I like let him sniff and give him lots of time. And you'll see that in a second when I slow the footage down a little bit, where I'm, putting a little bit of pressure. He braces on me. And so I just kind of lean back against him a little bit to make sure I don't give in the wrong moment with the rope. Now, in these situations, sometimes people would say, well, you should have a stick and like shoe behind his butt or something like that. And that is an option for sure, that you can definitely drive a horse from behind, but I'm positioned in front. I walked over the pole first. And one of the things that I think is really important with horses and in training in general is having the mentality of, hey, like I walked over this pole, I showed you can do it, I believe you can do it, and I'm going to be patient until you do it because I know you can. And that's really valuable if you bring a horse into a situation and it's, oh, I can't do it, and then you take it away or you quit and you don't somehow adjust or be patient enough, then what can happen is your horse learns to not trust you and not listen to your cues because you ask them to do something and then you're like, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have asked. And that ends up causing more problems down the line. So I started with this particular way of going over the pole first and thinking he would just follow me. So I've decided to just stick with it and just be patient and politely nag at him to try, essentially, rather than trying to switch gears. But also because I've worked on leading and getting him to follow the rope and follow me, I have not worked on any type of lunging or chasing with a stick or getting him to move that way. So if I were to try to pick up a stick or something myself, I think he would just get scared. I don't know that he would actually understand to move forward from it because it's not a thing I've taught him at this point in time. I used this stick to rub him and touch him before I did, but not at a point where it meant to move, because I am cognizant of horses, the Mustangs, being very flighty in the beginning. So I'm more going from the approach of getting them to understand moving different body parts and listening to my body language. And using a stick is something that I usually introduce later on for lunging. It's not something that I do in the beginning. So here he goes over the pole finally, and then I decide I'll try to give him a cookie, and he's like, and he backs up. So that's another example of trigger stacking where he was a little bit, on edge because of going over the pole. You already saw in the earlier footage that I could give him a cookie, no problem. But because he was trigger stacked, I go to give him a cookie and he was overwhelmed. So it meant waiting at the pole again for quite a long time. And then he finally goes over and I'm like, okay, let's just like breathe, not go near you, just like let you think about life. And he slowly actually starts to come towards me, which I thought was really nice. So after he had a good time to think about that, then we go and do it again. And I thought it'd be great if we could go over this pole and that we could take our time and I could give you your cookie, but hopefully not back over the pole again and have to restart the whole thing. So he walks over there, you can see, a lot quicker, which is great. So a lot more relaxed. He's checking out the pylons and different things, so he still sees a lot of things. And you can see him watching me like, what are you going to do, Lindsay? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to pet your head like you're fine. We've done this before. This is okay. And then I pet the side of his neck, and you can see he gets worried, like, oh no, you're touching me. What are you doing? And even though this is stuff that I've done before, I just take my time. And then after he lets me pet his neck, then I think, all right, we're going to try the cookie now so I can reward you. Because I'd like him to be thinking like, oh, like, good thoughts, lots of positive associations. That's the goal of the session, is just kind of walk around, hang out, be interesting, be patient, give him some cookies for doing the things that I'd like him to do, and have him leaving thinking like that was interesting, that was fun. Lindsay's a patient teacher, all of those things, because I want him to be excited to learn and happy to come in and learn the next time. So let me know what you guys found interesting, and thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to show you what happens next.
Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.